Ahoy and welcome everyone to another week of the LCO. It is week 3. My name is Papa Pike, that is my boy Skimmy, and that is my other boy Tally. Gents, we're in for a hoot and a half tonight. Lord, look at that. What's this? What's that, Skimmy?
Don't you worry about that one too much, mate. On with the show.
Well, we got a series of fantastic ones coming up for you tonight, but I think we got a fantastic replay of week 2 that we have to check out. Let's just jump straight into it.
Reckless abandon, 1v5, waiting for the team to come on through. There is the Impale, there is the first kill. Now finally, GA is being popped. Now Chirp rocks into the fight, so it was a 4v5 before, but he just absolutely stun locks 2 members in place, and they just wait for cooldowns.
The opponent right now is a bit too strong, and you really want to avoid these fights.
You should be avoiding these fights at all costs. What was that damage onto Nox? He died between the Moonlight Vigil and the acquisition of true heartbreak there for the Viego. And one by one, they get picked apart here. Forest showing no signs of slowing on down as the depth charge knocks up 3 members. And Mammoth look to try and put up a bit of a valiant effort to defend their base for whatever remains. Mochi jumps in, he's surrounded by 4 members, gets kicked apart and dies before there's any protection or peel to be found. But that means that Ketsuri can jump into the backline, find 2, assist with a 3rd, make it 4, and then look for the clean sweep ace. He's surrounded by everybody. He has no art, as you say. He's dead. Now everybody goes in. They say, you know what? Enough is enough. Laning has officially finished at 14 minutes. Minions to do Ground Zero's bidding.
Are we gonna beat our record?
It's only 60 minutes. Are they going to try and beat your record?
No.
Kanga, stop! Tally's not happy. Stop! Don't end the base right now.
Kanga, kill them
Tally's not happy.
Can they find the kills? Can they get Jurek out? Yes, they can. Safe for the meantime.
Look at Tien! He drives on by, says, I'm going to jump out of this one. Double ultimates connect, there we go. The interaction between the Caitlyn and the Archon. Triple for Limas for range. Really punishing that of the Leona, but instantly they turn their attention to Kevin and say, our cooldowns are back, our killer's there, there's a play back in. This time the Flourish connects, and this time we're getting 2. Now, Alazoric, can you dodge one more? Yes. No, I think it's dead and done. That stick saying, this is why I play Jhin. Might have to wait and see what they can find with this one. Solid player locks on place. Kevin, the Asher turns it around. There's no backup for the Leona that was running on. He's burning on down for the Sail Peel. Proves to be enough, and sticks with the curtain call, was unable to find much more than just that. It's a quadra kill. Make it the Penta as they get an ace to close out week 2 in classic Violet fashion.
And that's a player who knows his limit.
Every time I look at these replays, they're just getting better and better. But Tally, it's feeling so good. We got pentakills on Violet. We got awesome triple kills on Styx in that bot lane too. This is looking like the most competitive split I've seen in maybe my whole time watching LCO, Tally.
Yeah, definitely. It's had that energy even from the start of the split that like it's a lot more competitive now. We've had the the top teams having cleaner games and the bottom teams like starting to become more competitive. So it's just exciting to see like more teams and just more of the region as a whole being a better performance from everyone.
The only thing I would add to that though, Tally, is yes, we're looking very good. We're very excited by this, but I want to hear you in some of those highlights. I want to hear you being like, ah! And just doing something crazy like that. We're hearing a lot of Skimmy. I want to hear a little bit more Tally in there. Skimmy, can you make way for him a little bit?
No.
Fair enough. You know what?
I can't see his brand.
Open-ended question. Yeah, I left it like that for a reason. I wanted to hear Skimmy just say no, and that's fine. But let's have a look at our schedule tonight as we've got some awesome games coming to you on the Rift. And let's look at this. Mammoth versus Kanga to start off the evening, and then Fury versus Ground Zero. But this Mammoth Kanga one, Skimmy, it's a bit of an interesting matchup.
Yeah, this is a bit of a banger as we're going to talk to a little bit later on in this one, but both these teams still hunting for that very first victory, and this is the midway point of the season, right? 6 weeks of the regular season. Week 3 beginning tonight, so if you can't find a victory here, then it might be the end of the road already so early on.
Bit too early for me. I think we need to add a couple more weeks into it, get a little bit more excitement, but as well, Fury versus Ground Zero, that's going to be a bit of a one. Again, it's that super series that we're trying to see from Fury, working their way through the top tier teams. Might be a little bit easier on, but we'll have to see how that's going to pan out. But Tally, it's going to be a hard road. I think we've got quite a bit to worry about with Mammoth and Kanga. Like, before we get into predictions a bit later on, any team that you sort of maybe think's got what it takes?
I would have to I think it's a split down the middle. I think both teams have had like the that rough start where you go up against like the tougher opponents and it's really hard to get a read on like where they really place in the league. But coming up against each other, like it's now time to we have to take out who we consider like our main opposition, because we can't be dropping games to the the teams that are on our level. It's really important to pick up those points especially because we're at the midway split, as Skimmy did mention. It's really, really important to, you know, pick up those points and be a contender if you want to hit playoffs right now.
That's it. Well, halfway to playoffs, Tally. It's pretty big. Like you said, you got to get those dubs. You got to get those 3 points on the board. But at the same time, halfway through the split means we're into a new patch. Let's check out 14.11. And Skimmy, take this away because it's big.
This is a massive patch of a whole bunch of different changes, both buffs, nerfs, as well as the adjustments as well. The ones that stood out to me in particular had to be the Enchanter buffs. I'm primarily looking at the likes of Nami as well as Lulu. I think they're going to get a nice little buff to mana cost, effective utility, damage overall. I think they're in a really interesting spot to consider. I think the other one that stood out to me a little bit also was the Smolder buff, making his crit strike scale just a fraction better. We've seen obviously that run true with the likes of Jin, right at the top of the table there. Others obviously falling to the wayside, such as Ezreal. So I think bot lane should be in a bit of an interesting spot, and may just see more and more of that Lucian Nami come out, as opposed to in recent times, Tally, where it's been Lucian Milio.
Yeah, definitely. I think that with the the buff of Nami, I think Lucian Nami is going to come back again as like that powerhouse bot lane. I also like 2 buffs I want to mention that are probably a OC special is like the Gangplank and the Na. I think that both these champs have had a lot of success in that region. Na acting as that side laner and team fighter, which is just such a strong pick for us as just the way our plays like to function. But I also think Gangplank is quite sleeper. I feel like with the crit changes, his most successful iteration was the 50-50 GP, where he had 50% crit chance, and then you itemize for a bit more penetration. But GP gets to go back to that. He receives the armor buffs to help him through laning phase. So curious to see if this champ will come out today.
At the same time, Tally, as well, besides that, we've got some system changes we need to break down a little bit further, because some of these could be changing a lot of how this game is played. Like, is there anything here piquing your interest?
I guess like the 2 main ones that pop out straight away is like Infinity Edge was nerfed. This item was overperforming, so they brought it back down to be more in line with what it should do. I think the static shift buff is pretty good. I think champs like Zeri can really abuse this. That Kaiser is also another good abuser of just this bridging item, which gives you that little 1 item power spike and lets you itemize whether you want to go for the AP or the on-hit build. It's whatever you want. The turret fortification is a big one as well, because we have seen lane swaps have been so prevalent to avoid those bad matchups. I think we will still see it. You don't really lane swap to get as many plays, as much gold into your carries. It's all about avoiding those bad matchups in the early laning phase. So it's just a little bit of a, if you want to go for that lane swap later on in the game, you will get punished when the fortification falls off, because you get a bit more gold from, securing the first turret.
I think also one thing that we haven't mentioned that's not on the graphic is the fact that you can no longer stack those serrated dirks. We saw a fair bit, right, with these very aggressive AD carries, stacking, 2, 3, sometimes even more. Yeah, it's a unique item now, so only one of those available for you to pick up, so you can't snowball maybe as highly as you would have done otherwise. I guess also from the adjustments from the previous graphic is the fact that Ornn now offers more ornaments, more items, so should be a little bit more benefit for everybody to not feel as if they've bought the wrong item, and that the Ornn feels like a useless pick.
I like Ornn. Honestly, like I was a bit of an Ornn one-trick when he first came out, and I liked how he sort of upgraded as the game goes. But like you said, we could be seeing that potentially on a bit of a Biopanther special tomorrow night. But right now, we have a little bit more to go through, because, Skimmy, we got a weekly champ check-in. Let's have a quick look at this, and I want you to talk about this a little bit more in depth for me.
Well, I thought this would be a cool way for us to check in week on week, especially with the integration of the likes of LJL and PCS, just to see how we're shaping up once they come back into their season start. And as the weeks go by, we get to see, all right, what are we valuing? How's that different? And are we ready to actually go into the playoffs for the second time this year? The big winner still remains Nautilus. He's got up a position here. 75% of the time he's locked in. We just love the priority, both the aggressive nature in lane, but also the ability to roam and rotate. And even when it comes to mid-late game, you can be severely underfarmed, but all it takes is that one hook to catch out a particular champion, and off you go to the hills and beyond. Cassante, yes, he's been nerfed in this patch. Starting to fall down a fraction, but still is that blind, safe, reliable top lane champion of old. And Caitlyn was the big standout, right? Obviously, Violet got the very first pentakill of the week on it. And, it was perma-banned away. Now it's getting perma-picked. You can still see that Corki remains true at the very top of the table there. 75%. We see him primarily in the mid lane. Would like to see a lot more in the AD carry position, but denied half that time. Same could be then said for Skarnet. Yet to see him in that top lane. Me and Tally have been praying, basically, for the last 2 weeks. But he's only coming out in the jungle, whereas Tristana really there to try and deny those double AD carry flexes, where junglers can look to go into an AP option instead. And some of those sort of, initial 2 talking points then become true. We talk about presence, which is the ability to say how often was it picked or banned. That is the combination. You can just see it at Corki, as well as Nautilus. So just right up there, right? So highly prioritized down here in Oceania. And then in terms of KDA, Rakan didn't really change too much. The other champions like Jin did get a little bit more play time, so their KD of what I think was like 28 does get pushed down a fraction, but Rakan still becomes that ultimate playmaker that can really do no wrong. And the Galio came out, right? It was that one performance of the Galio. We saw them go for a bit more of a utility support build, but it worked out beautifully. I know that Tally's quite keen to see more of this champion
Morello's
in particular matchups, so we'll have to wait and see. And I suppose just because I'm going one by one, let's talk about the Ashe as well. Ashe came out, fantastic. Look, has been reworked 15 billion times. Still are seeing it in support, but definitely a very valuable AD carry in certain spots as well. So yeah, I think this is going to be awesome just to check in with us week on, week out to see how we're shaping up and then compare it once PCS and LGL are in full swing.
Well, mentioning PCS and LJL, we've got a little bit of an update on that too, because I went out and I've been sort of studying these guys, right? And I know we all had a couple things to say. I looked at the number of games, average game duration, like fastest games, the average kills. Like I wanted to look at what the other regions are doing. Like obviously, LCO started a little bit earlier. We're sitting at 16 games, LJL sitting at 12, and PCS now at 6. But they've all been looking very competitive. And Tally, is there anything in here that you really like? I'm looking at just the average game duration, because the games are just looking so even.
Yeah, definitely the average game duration and the average kills per game. Like I think it tells a story about like what these regions prioritize, how they like to play the game. I think that we are a very bloody region. We like to fight over everything, whether that be, you know, a cannon minion in mid-wave or like objectives, so we get to see that all the time. Watching other regions, it's more about objectives, side lane control, a lot more like slow gameplay, a lot more coordinated teamwork, so that's what we get to see watching these other regions. I think that's something to touch on that we're not really seeing in OST though, is the presence of Rumble. I feel like overseas, especially in like major regions, and in Japan especially, is that this champion has almost 100% presence. We're not really seeing that in OST right now, and I'm not sure whether that's like a playstyle, like teams don't really prioritize this champ, or if it's maybe other regions are overeating and we're just the best region in the world once again, you know, being the smartest players as we are. So I have to see if that does come out today though, because I think that Rumble is one of those you know, you can pick it in any scenario and fit into any comp and it's just going to do his job.
Yeah, jungle rumble, I think top jungle as well. I've even seen the occasional mid rumble too, depending on matchup. It's quite an interesting pick, but I think with this current change in the patch, right, like we're expecting to see a couple new champions. Skimmy, is there any champion that you're, don't say Skarner, but is there any champion you'd like to see out of the current patch changes?
Yeah, I want to see the return of Zeri and Smolder, just the return of the pentakill farmers. Those two champions, they come, they go, right, realizes they're too strong, they get nerfed, they go out of existence, and they say, hang on a minute, all these people bought this character on launch, we've taken all their precious RP and all their skin money, we need to make it valid for the community, by the community. Look, I think there's a world in which those champions can come back. Obviously so dominated by the likes of like a Jinx and an Aphelios and so on, even Jhin, but look, there's always a world, there's a potential, and I've got a soft spot for those AD carries. Then the most broken role, as we've spoken to everybody, there's no tears on Twitter. Let's see if we can keep it that way for just a fraction longer.
I like a little bit of tears. There's going to be a little bit of an upset. If you don't have that, I don't know if Twitter's doing it right. But we are going to go to a short break. Let's just go hang out for a little bit. Stay tuned as we get ready for the first series of the day, Mammoth vs Kanga. See you there.
Maybe I had enough, don't tell me why. All the girls in the club, no trashing, just dancing. We just living it up, we go all night. I can sense the tension of the room and cut it. Running miles inside my head, I give you a two-step and now we running.
out of the stopwatch. It's carnage. The only triple happening here is for Phyto. Oh, it's do or die.
Are we going to be hopping around after this, or are we going to get some tusks up and get the Mammoth stomping around too? We have the first series off the bat, Mammoth versus Kanga. Let's look at this lineup. They are they are fierce looking, Skimmy.
They certainly are, still rocking with the same five as they did, introducing this team into Split 2. Yet to find a win, as we mentioned before. Struggling a fair bit in that bot lane, but finding their groove step by step and game by game. They've had interesting moments, but it does still feel like a team of individuals, right, drafting for their own personal preference. We've got pocket picks like in this game, for example, a Gun Crab Zig special, a Goodo, flexing between what the Lee Sin then into the Kindred, but we yet to find that level of cohesion, and because the split is so quick, it's not that forgiving. You don't really get much time left for you to really bounce back in classic fashion. And I suppose to add to the pun, right, they need to bounce back into a team like Kanga.
Puns are just so nice, but I fully agree. I think that this is their chance to really shine. That's why we've highlighted this game so heavily. But Tally, like, do you think Mammoth can really come up with the goods tonight? Do you think they've got it? But at the same time, they're up against Kanga.
Yeah, I do definitely think Mammoth can, come up with the goods. But to talk more about Kanga, I feel like there's a lot going on with this team, and we got to see that last week against Ground Zero. They had that game 1 where it was quite shaky, but game 2 was a very good showing for Kanga. I think that with refueling in the jungle, he had that kind of wow factor we didn't really expect. He pulled out the Zac and was kind of like catching these players. You should be quite familiar with these very topsy-turvy games, but he was doing such a good job, and I think this is really good to see from Kanga. I feel like if they can bring out the same energy against Mammoth, who have shown that they do fall down when these games go very, very fast. I know this is Kanga's playstyle, and it's nice to see that they have finally found an identity and can play around that.
I guess they're going to have to show up and see how they're going to do it, but I'm really looking forward to see Sovereign as well in this mid lane. Has definitely shown up their debut into the split as well. Feeling quite good. Do you think we could expect a new star mid laner there, Skimmy?
Definitely possible. I think they're building the whole team around the likes of Sovereign and Woodon. Obviously, Refury being Kanga's previous mid lane has been told, look, you're going to be playing jungle, so you obviously know how that role plays in mid, how to try and facilitate that, try and pick up the pieces of being a jungler, and make it all come together into a perfect package. But I think stylistically, yes, Kanga have made a few changes with their lineup going from week 1 to 2, still running with that week 2 comp coming into tonight. I think stylistically very similar in terms of you've got a supportive jungler, you've got almost a carry-centric top laner to a degree. I think both the likes of Reneko as well as Woodon want to try and do as much as they can. They don't want to be on a tank if they can avoid it, right? You obviously see pocket picks like the Vayne, the Riven, and so on come out to try and facilitate that point. But stylistically, I think very similar, so it's a hard one to call.
It is. But we're going to have to get into it. But we do actually have Goodo from Mammoth joining us on the desk, coming in for a bit of a cheeky gander. G'day, mate. How are you feeling? Are you Goodo?
Hello. I'm good, thank you. No, I'm kind of sick, by the way.
Oh, you're kind of sick? Oh, no. Bit of the flu?
I'll just move the camera.
That's all good.
Yeah,
So,
cool.
you said you're feeling unwell? Like you got a bit of the flu? You got a bit of the chesty cough going around?
Yeah, kind of. I think my voice is gone. Just like that, yeah.
Well, mate, you sound beautiful to me. Now, I wanted to quickly ask you, though. You guys are not having the greatest time at the moment, and that's unfortunate, but how are you feeling? Like, what are you feeling towards any big changes for your team going forward for the rest of the round robin?
Obviously, we haven't had much time to prepare, cause we have 3 ADC playing. They need time to fit it in, all the stuff. We just need the time to figure out. But day by day, I think we are just getting better. So I think today we have just become more stronger than last year.
Oh, it's great to hear, man. I think that's the big thing, right? Yeah, I know. It's week 3. You've played a little bit. You're getting your grounds. I love to hear that. But I know Skimmy's got a question for you.
Yeah, well, I want to ask it. Obviously, you've been all over the show in terms of Oath, having gone overseas, then obviously playing in the middling team. So you find yourself in this position now. How do you look to try and figure out how do we win? Because it would seem that, this is your do or die moment. Both teams have yet to find a win. Need to get some momentum now. Are we going to see much the same as we've seen in the last weeks? Comfort picks, individuals, or have you been spending the whole week figuring out this is a good 5-man? That's what we need to just spam on stage to try and get as many points as possible.
To be honest, I don't remember what we played on stage and what we played on the scrim, so I don't know if you just like play something else, like I don't know, it's gonna be the same thing or like different thing. But I think we just play just whatever we want to do, and whatever we feeling to, like the champs, we're gonna win the series. So I think you guys could be like surprised, but I don't think we'll be surprised. So we'll see what's gonna do.
So what I'm expecting then is a Lee Sin where you're not using your voice, your mic is muted because you're sick, you're just spam pinging everywhere. I'm ganking, I'm safeguarding, I'm kicking. It's all just pings.
Yeah, I think, but to be honest, I think they'll be more concentrated because I can just not saying it, just pinging, like playing solo lane. They'll just understand me. I think that should be more better, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I wish you all the best, mate. Good luck.
Thank you.
Now, Tally, I know you've been hiding a couple goodos in there.
Oh,
too easy.
thank you.
It's
Thank
too
you for that one. Okay, I guess I want to ask like a more, personal question. So you're coming up against a role swap today in Fury, and since you're such a veteran jungler, does that like change how you would approach the game, or are you gonna like approach the game the same, like regardless of versing someone who's off role?
I think we're just playing the same, but like to be honest.
Oh. No! A little bit of a
My bad,
technical
guys.
difficulty, unfortunately.
No.
The Tally was
said
your
too
question,
much.
mate. Yeah.
Oh no.
They cut him off before he leaked anything.
You hit him with the Fury and he's just like, oh man, I can't talk about this.
I
I'm gonna
can't
get
link
tilted.
anything.
I'm done.
Plug pull.
Hopefully we don't get a pause like that in the game too.
Week 3 and I already got my clip. We got the interview clip ready.
Oh dude, hey, far out.
Well, we did hear from him though. He's feeling pretty confident. Like it's week 3 for them. Like still, like they're finding their ground, and that's good to hear though, Skimmy. I think it's a bit of a different Mammoth we could expect tonight.
What it is, and I think it's one thing to hear it. I think a lot of us viewers, players, probably even the team, everybody else involved is hoping they can actually see it now, right? It's one thing to talk it, you actually obviously need to walk that walk as well. So it's a high pressure situation, but maybe there are vulnerabilities in the Kanga camp that obviously Gudo doesn't want to reveal to us because he's left, but there's certainly a possibility in which they can find some winning formula here tonight.
Well, now Tally, he mentioned some special picks. Do you have an inkling of what that could be?
I think we've seen majority of like special picks from like in OS already and the rest of the world. I feel like it's just a very heavy, like the Kindra's, the Lee Sins, like I feel like those are the special picks right now. I feel like they're very standard, like you got Viegos, your AP junglers. Those are like the more standard champs. And when I think of Gudo, I really think of like these Lee Sins and these Kindreds and these Viegos. I want to see him play these these AD junglers to really complement Sovereign's like mage pool. That's why that's the kind of place I want to see coming out of them.
Well, we've got a Mammoth strength schedule down below. We've talked about Fury so much, but now look at Mammoth going in. This is the Kanga matchup today into Antic, Ion, Bliss, Fury.
Rough.
Damn, it's looking pretty hectic. So what does that sort of tell us though, Skimmy?
Well, for me, this is the big talking point is the fact that, yes, you've got 0 points right now up against Kanga, your direct competition. You need to secure 3 points there. You need, first of all, a little bit of confidence to say, look, guys, we're actually a strong team. We found our mojo finally. We've got the points. The player stream is still alive. Because then you get up against all these heavy hitters. Antic and Bliss in particular are going to be the ones that are going to give you the biggest challenge. But if you somehow found a degree of form and maybe the other teams drop off a fraction, then the likes of Iron and Fury are also very scary too, given that they are almost like the gatekeepers, the dark horses. And they've definitely brought the pressure to the likes of Antic and Bliss already. So you're really hoping that with a win tonight, that strength of schedule doesn't become a burden where you're thinking, oh, geez, like not another game. We're just going to get smashed in like, 30 minutes again. Yeah, it's a tough one.
Well, the best part there is because we saw that Gudo wasn't nervous. He was feeling confident. But we also have Woodon actually joining us on the side of Kanga. Mate, how are you doing? Looking sharp there. I love that. Hold on. Can I mirror that camera angle right there? Mate, you're feeling good for tonight.
Wait, other way, other way.
Get me other way.
Yeah, I'm feeling not too bad. I think we had a similar start to last split. Like we didn't really start off a good last split, and we ended up in 4th. So I'm not really like too worried about how we started. I'm just like focused on improving with my current roster because we didn't have like a solid roster to begin with in week 1.
Well, that's taking me to my exact next question, which I love. You're literally setting me up in mate, you should be taking my job at this point. But I wanted to talk about your team's gameplay. Like, have you guys been working, at least, are you more excited to refine and showcase some new things for us?
Well, from week 1, we didn't really have like set players in each role. Every time we scrimmed with like different players. Sometimes like we had a sub, so we didn't really have like a current like play style. But I think over the last week, we've really like hone down on like one champion each, where we can confidently like pick it in every game. So I think we're kind of going in the right direction now.
That's good to hear. I think, yeah, it has been a couple shaky weeks, but I think you guys have the makings of greatness. I can see it in you. Skimmy can see it in you too. And that's why Skimmy's got a question for you. But, mate, I'm keen to see it.
I can always see greatness in Woodham because I hype up his Riven, then I banter and play off his Aatrox that goes either PvE mode or full PvP mode. Either way, it's a fantastic affair. I want to ask the question. It almost looks like this team is being built around the likes of you and Sovereign, with you being the core members that haven't shifted at all this entire split. Do you still coin yourself as a bit of a rookie? Still quite fresh in terms of experience, but I suppose you've now got like a whole year under your belt. Do you feel that kind of like leadership or that degree of, you know, I know the style in terms of how many scrims and gameplay and all the rest?
I mean, just if I just compare myself to like the other like top laners in the league, I think my champ was kind of smaller than theirs, and I think last split the meta was alright for me, but now I think with like the likes of like Riven like being like banned against me every game, and like Aatrox not being really in a good state, I think I have to I have to focus on myself first before I like start to increase my leadership. So I'm just trying to play the best I can.
Yeah, fantastic.
Well, Tally, I know you got a couple things to ask Wood on, because you've been looking at this top lane, you're thinking of a rumble, but what have you got to ask Wood on?
Yeah, actually, good point, because I did want to touch on the champions that are being played right now. So now that, you know, we've finally seen other regions start their competitive seasons, would you say that like your read and your team's read on the meta was correct? And like, do you yourself like, you know, take inspiration from, you know, other places around the world?
I think when we first started, we weren't really like, especially because we never, like I said, roster. Like especially when we versus GZ last week, we didn't have like a really good idea on how to deal with the lane swap. That's why we kind of got pounded. But now I think I've set my like champions like according to the meta. I know which champions I want to play in like against certain matchups. So yeah, I think I have like a better idea on the meta now.
Awesome! I can't wait to see it.
I'm keen for that. I'm keen to see some rumble in the top lane. Can't be in the jungle, but Wardon, thank you so much for jumping on. Good luck out there. I know you're going to crush it. I can feel it. I can feel the energy coming out of you, man. Go crush it out there.
Thank you, mate.
Oh,
It's locked in.
he's ready to go, man. He's ready to go. But that is exciting to hear. Like, I feel like they're finding their feet a little bit more. It's kind of good to see after so many changes to the roster. Tally, like, I guess, do you think there's anything big that Kanga could really pull out here to maybe swing the tides against Mammoth that has had that structure so far?
I want to see Sovereign on like his mage picks. I think that's where he really shines. But sorry, you know, talking about the other team. I guess I will talk about, you know, Mammoth first. I think that I really want to see Predator, you know, pull out the bunk again. I feel this is what he really had a lot of success on last week, and I think that champ is extremely broken. And I want to see them ban away the mages from Sovereign. I feel like he has too much success on these champs, and we saw last week he was getting, you know, double, triple bans in mid lane, and like he was forced to pull out like Jace. I don't think it's really his field of play, you know, playing those AD mid laners, and I think that Guru has a lot more success when he can play AD junglers. So I feel like that's the, you know, the key breakdown when versing that team is you want to break them off that AD AP, you know, mid jungle comboing, and I want to see, you know, Mammoth be able to pull out more of this you know, aggressive play style in early game, because we have seen them really fall over. Like, if one side's getting played to, the other side's just completely bleeding. So I'd really like to see, you know, if Renekton does get a lead, I want to see him be able to play to, be able to snowball, and just, you know, more team cohesion from both teams.
Well, talking about cohesion, we got their rosters looking good for the schedules in the next coming weeks for Kanga. Let's take a quick look at this, because yes, they're versing Mammoth today, but again, this is a hard slog, Skimmy. It's into Direwolves, into Fury, into Antic, into Bliss. You're ending on the raid boss, man, and that is no fun for anyone. Do you think it's going to be a hard one?
I mean, it's basically echoing the previous point, right? You switch at the Direwolves to be Ion for the other team, right? For Mammoth's roster, rather strength of schedule. And it is still that breakdown of a case of if you can't win tonight, look who you have to really go up against to try and close out this regular split. It just doesn't get easy. You look at that and go, can we get a point there? Well, that one's definitely going to be, you know, 0 points there. That one's too much of a battle. So this really does feel like crunch time. You've got to lock in. You're hearing from both sides. We're figuring out our roster. We're figuring out our playstyle. We're figuring out our champions. But this could be certainly the most important best of two that they play in this split. Otherwise, it may just be ghost games where you're just looking to try and play upset because your playoff journey has come to a very abrupt end.
Well, It's going to be hard to see, but we do have some signs that these teams have picked to see where they're going to be sitting in these next couple games. Both sides looking at blue tally. Again, we've seen this quite often. Do you like it?
I don't dislike it. I would say, you know, I'm a bit down the middle on both sides. I think both blue and red are really strong. I'd go down the middle on like the strengths. I feel like really depends on what you draft. You know, if you want to prioritize top lane, obviously like playing on the you know, the red side's a bit strong. You have more access to, you know, the easier path at top lane for like diving, as we see like junglers and mid laners comboing up to like, you know, really abuse the tower dives. But the same for blue side, like you have easy access to bot lane. But I feel like it's just, you know, very map dependent, very comp dependent, very play style dependent, and you know, seeing both teams go for blue side means that like we're talking about bot lane this series.
You literally led me into my next point, because I wanted to ask both of you, and you can just shoot this wherever you want, because if you're both picking blue side, do you think with the Nami buffs and the slight Corki adjustments, we could be seeing a Lucian Nami set of gameplay again, or do you think there's better AD carries suited to the Nami pick?
I think there's a world in which you do want to try and, you know, rush towards these incredibly aggressive early game dominant champions. Like we've obviously seen there's the tendency between both top laners to look towards the Aatrox to Renekton. I think for the mid laners, talking about Pradev, certainly want to see the likes of Ari and LeBlanc on repeat. Have the agency in lane to be aggressive 1v1, have the ability to rotate around the map and help out too. Bot lane, yeah, anything. I mean, you can still see the likes of Draven come to the mix of things if you want to try and be the absolute lane crusher, but I think Lucian Nami for sure has to be a staple. You win early, you contest objectives, you snowball, 15 minutes in, the other team doesn't have the reps, they don't know how to stabilize, mid-game just becomes a bit of a wash. I think it almost feels like it's a blue-sided dominant draft, should just close you out to victory.
I'm going to let Tally just debate that for a second while I just sit here and just think about putting my Twitch votes in, but Tally, what do you think?
I would have to agree. You know, I feel like Corki as a first pick on blue side is extremely strong. This is the only champ I can really think of in bot lane where like you can't really contest it level 1. You know, like the Halo Blades with the Gatling gun start is extremely strong. That damage is very hard to match up to when you pair it with like the melee supports. But I do think the Lucian Nami is extremely strong. It's not so much like that really dominant lane you remember in the past with the electrocute Nami and like you just lose half your health from one trade. It's more so about like the short trades and scaling into mid game and like hitting 2 items on, you know, that mid wave when you start contesting as a team comp. It's very, very hard to deal with Lucian when you have that, you know, rapid fire cannon harass and just so much damage.
I love damage. I've started playing AD carry again. I'm loving damage. But talking about damage, let's do some damage to those bank accounts. Funnily enough, bank accounts is actually your Twitch channel points, because don't forget to get in your votes. Oh, I did it wrong. Damn, I should know this by now. But get your channel points in. It's the only way to do it. Support your favorite team. Who's going to take it? Is it going to be Mammoth or is it going to be Kanga? The only way you can double your points is by putting it in. So go ahead and do it. That's all I'm going to say on the matter. But we do also have our predictions coming right up. Skimmy, Tally. Ooh,
we are such cop-outs, boys. Look, all I'm going to say is we mulled over this as a combined squad for a very long time. Is it a 2-0? Is it a 1-1? Is it 2-0 the other way? Ultimately, and I think it kind of echoes what I mentioned before, I think 2 very blue-sided favored drafts should allow them to get the comp that they're after, maybe the comp that they've practiced all week, find favorable conditions in the game and snowball to victory, and then vice versa. The second game comes around, maybe a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction. Those picks get denied, they still find the pick that they're after, and off they run. So I've just gone for 1-1 based on that.
Tally.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's very comp dependent. I feel like a lot of it's going to come down to like we got, you know, Woodon's on a comfortable pick, Praetor's on a comfortable pick, stuff like this. I feel like these both teams have players who can really have 1v9 performances, and I think that, you know, whoever locks in the more comfortable draft, you know, based on like side selection, probably going to be the most comfortable draft on blue side. Whenever they feel comfortable, have a good early game, I feel like it's very, you know, hard to lose when you're versing a, you know, the team that's on the same like skill caliber as you when you get ahead and you're in that comfortable position.
I like to go draw because then it throws Twitch chat's votes out, because they will not know which game to actually put their points onto. So then I get the win regardless. And at the end of the day, Twitch is actually beating us in the overall scores, which is by one game, which is kind of upsetting though, Skimmy. So I think we need to...
we don't care about Twitch. Look, Twitch get it too easy because we submit all of our predictions before we see the draft, before we see literally anything. And then they get to go game by game. Oh, you know what? I feel like this team now. It's a cheat code. It's too easy. If we could do it that way, we'd be smashing Twitch. Let's be honest.
It's not fair.
Otherwise, why are we here on this camera?
There's thousands of them. There's 3 of us.
Yeah.
That's true.
They're everywhere. But we do have a game, so you know what? I've been busting for the loo for about 5 minutes, maybe longer, so I'm going to let you guys just do it. I'm going to just... Good luck. Yeah.
Enjoy the toilet.
So whilst he runs off to alleviate their shoot, we can alleviate your boredom and show you player cams instead. You see Sovereign getting himself warmed up and ready to go for a banger matchup. Hopefully, a little bit of Syndra gameplay, Tale. We saw him play the Malphite. Sure, a little bit of a spicy one. It's to be expected into a team like Grand Zero. You had to try and reinvent the wheel some way. But I do kind of agree with you in terms of pocket picks and the ability to find comfort. Try and find this amalgamation of like, this works, this doesn't, but into our opponent, maybe that's that cutting edge, that 1% difference to get the win here.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, we are hitting the midway point in the split. It's really important to, you know, kind of cut your losses, stop trying out new stuff, stop trying to figure out like, oh, can we do this a bit extra as a team? Can we find a little bit more win conditions as a team, find a different identity? I think it's time to like lock in, play what works, really play the stuff that is strong, and unfortunately Sovereign lost his double mages again.
He really just did. I mean, everything we've highlighted in terms of priority has been put to the wayside. No LeBlanc then for Predif, no Lucian for us to discuss for all these AD carries to take amongst in the Corki is the icing on the cake. And with all that in mind, they say, you know what, forget your AD carry priority. It's a first pick Karthus.
Yeah, this is probably a pretty standard pick right now on the patch. I think Karthus is just a really strong champion when a lot of his volatility is removed from the game. He can just full clear over and over again and still have an impact with the Requiem. I feel like Kanga should really look at denying the Tristana because, you know, the pairing of the Tristana with the Karthus just means you have like the strongest AD mid lane on the patch who is good into every single comp, good with every single comp, pairs with the Karthus really well. It's probably a combo you want to avoid giving. So yeah, as I do lock it in, I really want to know what Mammoth want to pair though with the Karthus, whether they do want to go for just like Ahri and avoid, you know, interacting with the mid jungle altogether, or if they do want to look for something like the Jace, or if Praedeath, you know, former AD carry player, has a different champion up his sleeve.
Well, that is the question, right? Because if you thought of like mid laners that could be an AD carry, it would be Tristana and Lucian that come to mind imminently for myself. But with those being either removed or banned away, no longer a possibility. With the Karthus already in place, you need to make sure you got some strong lanes for the Karthus to freely farm up for. So Renekton makes a fair bit of sense. We've seen that Reneko has played it a fair few times, obviously once on stage, but looked quite comfortable with it. It fits the bill of what his champion pool has been this far. It does bring into question though, like you say, how does this mid lane want to operate? And I think Ahri's certainly the next one on the tip of my tongue to find that ability to circumvent a lot of information. But they say, you know what, forget that. Senna was hovered by them. This time, we'll lock it in for ourselves.
Well, if they do decide that they are deciding to drop mid, so like Predator has access to like a lot of the AD mids, which are like really niche, but you still can play them with Karthus because you just operate as like that front line, that ability for Karthus to be solo AP. So I wouldn't be surprised if this Renekton does go to mid. We did see Reneko having a lot of success on the Renekton last week, so it's good to see that they are prioritizing that again. I really like the Rumble takeaway from Kanga though. It's like this extremely strong champ on the patch, does really good into every single matchup in top lane, really good as a solo AP champion, really good into these immobile champs like Senna. So we see the pairing already with like the Nautilus, the dive threat coming out of Mammoth is crazy. I think they're very comfortable with the first three so far.
And my only question, I suppose, becomes a bit of a head twister as to how do you figure this one out, but is there a world in which we get super crazy with this and we're flipping the map state of like, it could be a Renekton mid, could be top, could also be the Rumble mid to try and match these lanes? We've seen, yes, it's 14-11 and sort of like lane swaps should be no longer as attractive as they were before, but definitely the ability to try and match your laner and make sure that you do win out on that one cannot be forgotten about.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't put it past Sovereign to play the Rumble mid. We did see the Malphite mid from him in weeks past, but I think the most important things for both teams, make sure the Karthus is solo AP, make sure the Rumble is solo AP, so they can have as much impact as possible. You really don't want to see the champs having to build, the penetration items early. You want to see them get as much AP as possible, so they're really outputting damage, because, a lot of these squishy champs aren't going to have access to sustain early on. They're going to wait until like the 3-4 items before we were picking up like the Bloodthirsters, the Vamp Scepters, the major sustain items that will let them navigate these really huge amounts of AoE coming out of both team comps.
Well, that's a good point, and we can see obviously with the next few bans with the Tarm as well as the Rel denied by Kanga, they've got a complete wombo combo comp. They want really no ability for that to be denied, and as for Mammoth, they say, well, you've already got enough engage, we don't want any more, so no Zac, no Brand to punish us in close proximity. So then Kanga open up their account with their first pick in the Kaiser, still offering you that mixed damage profile. But this becomes interesting, right? You mentioned you want more AD. You mentioned already before the likes of a Jace. I'm trying to think who else could fit the bill for a mid lane flex if the Renekton's not guaranteed. They are hovering the Aru, which you mentioned beforehand, but yeah, I suppose it's that case of we feel strong enough individually with this champion that I can assist elsewhere, that shared damage profile shouldn't really be an issue.
Yeah, the the saving grace though for like when you play Ahri with the AP junglers, you do offer the priority, you do offer a lot of it's a safety net. It's very hard to invade and punish the Karthus early game when you pick such a strong laner, which is one thing that Karthus usually falls down to. I will say though, it's very, very easy to itemize magic resist against the comp that Mammoth has brought out, and you don't really think of like Renekton and Senna as like good solo AD threats on their team. So I feel like if Kanga do decide to lock in something like the Ivern, which is going to be really strong, providing the shields, redemption, like even Locket, just lots of sustain coming out in these team fights, I think it's going to be very, very hard for Mammoth to really function into Kanga's comp.
Yeah, it'd be pretty brutal, that's for sure. Too much sustain to try and get them away through as they finalize with a Rengar pick. I did not see that one coming whatsoever. And this is Refury saying, look, mate, it's another day in the jungle. I want to be a carry. That's what my main role is in mid. But if that's going to be pushed to the side, then I want to be aggressive in the jungle and really bring the heat to Goodo.
Yeah, I mean, Kanga would be pretty familiar with the Rengar. We had Invictus in the last split who was the Rengar one trick, so I don't think it's too far outside their wheelhouse. I don't really think it operates well with their comp. I think it's going to have a pretty hard time into Mammoth's comp as well, because, it's so hard to get onto the Renekton, the Ahri. Like, a lot of these champs have CC. Your only targets really are the Senna. Like, Karthus doesn't really care if he dies. Like, if he trades 1-for-1 with Rengar, he's done his job. He's still going to get all the AoE in team fights. I also think it's very easy to itemize, like, a lot of armor if this Rumble falls behind. It's like, very important that Rumble is useful this game, because if he falls behind, if he doesn't have a lot of access to AP, this Ornn will be unkillable. This Renekton will be unkillable, and I think it's really important that they have a stable showing and it doesn't snowball too hard.
I'm really glad you bring it up, because I sort of want to discuss some of the profiles or the identities of these teams as a whole, right? I look at Mammoth and say you've got this clear idea that you want to have enough early game agency, that the Karthus can freely farm, that the Ornn can get what you'd imagine to be a fasting center lane, so the Ornn becomes relevant. Obviously, the ornaments later on to the game are going to be a massive factor too, and that could be the make or break, right? If it's going to be either a very bloody affair or a very passive one, it feels like we're gunning towards a late game battle, whereas for Kanga, it's the case of we have infinite engage, we have a lot of damage to try and get through those ranks, but there are squishies, but then there's also a lack of ability to try and push them down if you are behind. So I guess we asked the age-old question, Telly, which is, you look at these two teams without the nameplates on, which direction are you leaning?
I would definitely say Mammoth are much more comfortable in this game. Their comp has just a lot of identity. It's a lot of their lanes are stable, a lot of their win conditions are very obvious. I don't feel like they have too hard of a time, navigating lanes. Their matchups are very simple. You have the Ornn who can just like absorb all the Naught hooks in the bot lane. Senna's going to scale up. Once Senna gets a lot of stacks, very, very hard to deal with since there's like not much range coming out of Kanga. Like the main threat onto the Senna is going to be the Rumble ult with a Rengar flank, but it's quite hard to navigate Rengar in a competitive game because assassins just don't really work in games where you have communication. That's probably like one of the biggest strengths Mammoth is going to have. Is like they're going to have abilities to track where the flanks are coming from. I think their side lanes are also really good. A lot of this game is going to come down to Sovereign. I feel like if he is able to get ahead on this Tristana, he can really take over the game, because Ahri and Renekton won't really be able to match the power that Tristana has in the side lane, and that, pairing with the Rengar will probably be their one win condition for being able to, navigate these team fights.
It does sound to me, Talos, if we need that Tristana pressure to be there to open up those side lanes, to allow the Rengar to find a lonely target to pounce upon. As we say that, we are loading into the Rift here, and Kanga, as a 5-man stack, actually say we want to force some level 1 action. We're going to group up, we're going to spot out Voice, who very conveniently walked out of that bush just before the dredge line would have ever connected. But it's good to see that they've done their research, and they're not afraid to try and go all crazy from the very get-go.
Yeah, something to touch on this game as well is, when you think of Rumble, you always think about like stacking waves and like diving on level 3, level 4, because you got the HP advantage, you got the ignite. Rengar is a very underrated tower diver. Like the damage he offers in the early game is quite insane, but like he doesn't have CC, so you wouldn't think he's a, I'm just gonna like CC them, easy kill on the dive. I feel like Rengar Rumble is a very underrated diving pair with just the amount of damage they can output level 3, level 4. So I want to see if like Renekton is able to navigate like the early levels, stay healthy and avoid this dive.
So speaking of then, what should we really be expecting from the early game? Obviously for Mammoth, you mentioned that they've got some pretty strong lanes, that the Senna's going to be quite content just fasting, given that she has gone for the supportive item, and the Renekton should be quite aggressive to try and match some of the power that the Rumble has to offer. But I suppose on the flip side, what are Kanga hoping to achieve? Do they want to almost just match what Mammoth are doing, or do they want to try and push the pedal a bit?
Definitely push the pedal. Like a lot of their team comp is about finding windows early, like snowballing. I feel like a lot of their champs can take over the game when ahead. Like we see Sovereign starting with the rocket jump. Very standard Tristana meta now. It's like you run the PTA, you start the rocket jump. You really abuse these champions to try to contest your level 1, because the amount of damage that comes out from Tristana level 1 is very insane. As you see like Praetor already chugging through 2 potions. in this matchup. So, you know, Tristan is sitting pretty, going to be able to push in. Maybe even assist on this dive top lane if they do want to play for it.
It's a very good point. As you say, straight away, when that cooldown is there, level 2 is picked up. Instant rocket jump on your head and really keep the zone you back. Even if that's only one stack of that explosion shot, still enough to force you into a bit of a precarious situation of, well, I have no potions. Do I go back? Do I burn the TP? Do I wait for my jungler to rock up and assist? And you already mentioned Gudo would want to be dragged out that full clear unless absolutely necessary. Well, that's just checking quickly with the top lane as well, and no surprises that the Rumble is able to harass and keep the Renekton at bay. Already down to 50%, whilst the Rumble remains fairly topped up and healthy. But I am curious to see just how much jungle interaction we will get, given that these laners may be quite keen to push, rotate, and assist.
I expect Gudo to just, you know, finish his Grom and then play for the recall. I feel like he wants to get out top side as much as possible. He doesn't want to be wasting time around here. Karthus is all about, you know, staying efficient. He doesn't really want to like cover lanes. I feel like he's going to drop a ward, probably base in trade crabs. And if that does happen, you know, if Renekton does decide to stay, I feel like he's going to get dough for that. I don't really expect to see too much, you know, jungle interaction in the 1v1 sense because, you know, they don't really want to interact with each other. They want to farm. Rengar wants to hit 6, Karthus wants to hit 6, and that's when they start taking over the game.
Well, as you speak about experience, obviously the gold is not going to be picked up there by Renekton on this Renekton, but he can at least be in range of that experience as, well, double wards are there to really make sure they have eyes in the sky as to where Mammoth may be on the rotate towards that top lane. But the only ward that Renekton had planted is a good one at just that. Fury is able to clear that one out, no harm, no foul. Happy days for him, denying that first blood as a second potential jungle gank looks to take place here in mid, with both those mid laners able to limp away.
Yeah, that was just Gudo, you know, covering his laner. Praetor's Wave's in a bad position, and based on like the earlier trades, he's lost a lot of health. A really nice hook from Gaben, but it's not going to amount to much. This matchup is just all about, like, you know, Ornn's going to be able to absorb a lot of the damage coming out of the Kanga bot lane. They don't really have threat onto Ornn. Senna's going to have a really happy time just, you know, eating these souls, scaling up, and this is why Senna is like such a prevalent pick in other regions. It's such an easy chance, you know, pick early in the draft, and, you know, you have your choice of litter. Like, what do you want to pair with it? Do you want to pair like the mage, the tank, you know, the other AD carry? You can even play it in the AD carry position yourself if you want to pair with the support. It's just a very good chant that you can like draft around, flex around. It just has a lot of different strengths that are easy to utilize in competitive.
Yeah, one of the biggest strengths that they compare with is the pulls. And we did have a bit of a bet before this one, right? We said, how many pulls will we find today? All in good spirit, of course, because we don't really enjoy having these, but it is the nature of an oceanic broadcast, especially online, where multiple different factors are without our control. But look, as you say, Senna, I feel like it's one of those very nullifying picks. If you aren't aggressive enough early game, then I just get to coast on through, whilst you're scaling up as the Kaiser, finding the, you know, evolution of your QWE. I'm able to get those souls become, you know, stronger with more range, more damage, and eventually more crit to become lifesteal there too. So, as much as you'd want to see the classic Nautilus and Oath be aggressive, the Ornn is definitely there to try and shut it down, and he's going to answer back with a fair bit of damage as well.
I'm curious to see what build Benric does go for this game. I think that like on the current patch, like the Shiv into Pickaxe is like the major, like it's the highest win rate build for Kaiser right now. You get your Q evolve straight away. You still do have the same option with the you know, the Kraken into Pickaxe same build where you go for like the on hit. I think that, you know, because we are seeing a lot more tanks this game, a lot more frontline, probably will itemize for the Kraken because you have more time on the passive. More DPS overall. I feel like the Shiv is more of a... I don't have access to, you know, as many auto attacks, so I want to have that burst on like the kill when the, you know, the passive procs, or like the easier wave clear in lane if you're versing double range champs. It's nice to see that you can, you know, really choose the build you want based on what you're versing.
But it's becoming more and more towards that direction, isn't it? I feel like that's exactly what Riot are looking to try and really achieve, that it hasn't got to be a cookie cutter, follow this build, or you just get flamed by your teammates in solo queue kind of style, right? It's a much more of a, no, it is the tank, I must build Lord Doms, where in the case of what we've seen in the past, it has been like, this is the build, you must go this build no matter what. We'll get to see if that Kraken does come out to play here. As good, it does go for a bit of invade, having cleared all of his jungle. He wants to make sure that he can steal away some whilst it is up and available, and get to level 6 as quickly as he can. Halfway towards that one, Predator as well as the other mid laner in Sovereign have found that already. Have both been quite keen to try and leave the lane, as you can see on the minimap right now. Sovereign being forced back to his lane, but still biding our time, waiting for the fireworks for that first blood.
Yeah, curious to see if Mammoth do want to go for the grubs here. I feel like it's a very risky play, you know. Even though Rengar's tracked, they know where Rengar is, Karthus will hit 6 first because he stole away the camp. I feel like you have to respect Wudong right now, like the amount of strength he has in top lane, like, you know, the Ignite, the Equalizer combo. He's going to be so strong in this fight. The Tristana also is going to be stronger than the Ahri in a skirmish. Karthus really just wants to avoid this as much as possible. He wants to get his first item and play for team fights. It's really all about, avoiding the skirmishes against strong champs in the early game who will just stat check.
Which it almost seems like it's a happy time to be the Carpus, right? Your opposition have an aggressive comp that could have the ability to dive lanes and whatnot. But look, at this stage, he's able to farm up quite contently. Ahead that of the Rengar right now, who is opting to go for those grubs. Priority there from Mammoth as well, if we play towards the top side. We've just done a reset of our bot lane. Or rather, we've pushed out the enemy bot lane. Let's go for this first dragon. So, both teams working towards their own win condition. And just waiting for that opening moment.
Yeah, also, much more different game style we're seeing from both these teams. We're used to seeing a lot of deaths in bot lane at this point from both Kanga and Mammoth. I think it's very nice to see that stabilized. A lot of these both drafts, both sides of the matchup, a lot more simple to play, a lot easier to navigate hard matchups. I feel like we get to finally see what these teams are capable of in the mid game, what they really like to do, what their identity looks like, just based on the fact that the whole game hasn't blown open in the first 10 minutes.
Which is, yeah, certainly a case of what their split has looked like already, right, thus far. We looked at some of their goal differences, and it's in the negatives by a pretty healthy margin. So if there is a situation where you are up against an even opposition, you're thinking, all right, well, what does the early game look like? And right now, dead even. Neither side able to find the opening that they're after. And, I mean, that could be down to multiple factors, either unable to find that situation or unwilling to make that mistake. Almost like you're waiting for your opposition to make the first move and prey upon their fault.
Yeah, and to also touch on the strength of schedule that we saw in the pre-show, I think the teams that we saw that they're both going to come up against aren't ironclad. I think they've shown a lot of weakness in the early game so far. We'll probably fall down to the Carpus all here.
Yeah, he certainly is going to be falling on down. Reneko flashing forward just to guarantee that there was enough damage. And make sure that that Requiem would find first blood, and it goes right into the hands of a very happy Goodo.
Yeah, that's the strength of Karthus. You can really impact these lanes without even being there. That's what the Requiem's all about. Karthus is going to sit in his jungle, keep farming, be happy. He's got first blood. He's snowballing towards his items much faster, and this is one of the strengths of Renekton. You hit 6, you're all in, especially with the help from Karthus, and this lane is much harder for Wudon to navigate now.
Certainly is. Without a TP back to lane, if the timing is perfect, then you get denied so much golden experience. And for Reneko offers him a free passage back to lane, having already burnt that TP earlier on. Potential little response here from Kanga in the bot lane. They've drawn all 4 members down here. But the hook from Gaben wasn't enough to try and start things up. Refury unable to find an angle on which he can ult to pounce to get that kill as well. It is a bit of an awkward situation, right? You don't want to go for the Ornn. You look at Gungrab and think, maybe I can pick up the center, but between a flash heal as well as the piercing shadow, I mean, it's just so much effective health to try and get through first.
Absolutely, and we're already seeing a 2-level lead in the jungle, and this is what I was afraid about when we saw the Rengar pick. He just doesn't have a way to snowball with the lanes he has. A lot of his lanes don't offer like the damage profile he needs is the Rengar. Rengar is not a good tower diver. He's not a good a ganking champion. He just really punishes lanes that are volatile. And right now we're seeing everyone is on 100% HP. None of these lanes are gankable. And in game states like this, Karthus will out-farm you, Karthus will out-level you, and he's going to have a much stronger impact than you ever will.
He certainly will. And you can see there was a degree of volatility in the top lane, but it all came unstuck because Refury unable to find that moment to link up with Wudon. And Goodo just gets to farm not only your teammates, but also gets to farm up his own jungle as a result as well. Now, not satisfied with taking his own, he wants to poke and take a 1v1 with the Rengar. Offers some very valuable information to his Renekton to say, continue to be as aggressive as you like. I'm here in the area, I'm scouting things up. The Rengar is there to help and try and turn things around as well. As we all look at that first 2v2, there comes the equalizer, the wall, to slow things down. Reneko says, I'm active, pops Dominus. Goodo unsure whether to go back in or not. The piercing shadow all the way from bot lane as a flash from Rengar forces him back out. These are promising signs for Kanga if they want to try and really assert themselves here in game 1.
Yeah, and this is just the strength of the globals. I feel like, Mammoth still has the threat here on the dive with the powered stun. I feel like it's very easy execution here.
It certainly is, but look at that. I mean, it really is a case of nobody will survive. It's a double kill for both junglers, and I think both are just laughing straight to the bank.
Yeah, I think both teams are happy with the outcome there. Kanga, salvaged a really bad situation for them, and then, Mammoth gets the kills on the Karthus, which is really important. He's their main champion. He's one of the CS leaders in this game. He's getting so much gold. He's so accelerated, and they're probably sitting very comfortably right now.
Certainly will be. Blackfire Torch then instantly picked up by Goodo to respawn and truly do so much more damage now. But to your earlier point about what build could be coming up from the Kaiser, it will be the Kraken Slayer Rush.
Yeah, I think it's just very standard. I expect to see the on-hit build, the Rage Blade into the Ashes. Probably finishing off with the Zhonya's. I feel like it's a very good item into the team comp. They've shown very easily shuts down like the dive threat from like the Nord ult, like the Rengar flanks. I think it's really nice that Kai'Sa can have options to play like that full poke, you know, that W harass that we've seen, or like just this really good, you know, high DPS on hit champion.
Well, to pivot the conversation towards mid lane again, checking in with that once more. 10 CS lead, soon to be shrunk in a second by Sovereign, but it's not without him trying. Tristana has been a lane bully, has on multiple occasions rotated to bot lane, but unable to find the opening they have been after. They did opt for all 3 Void Grubs in that first rotation. Now they're looking to try and get, at least contest that second spawning, but Predator wants to answer back, misses the charm, and that fight may just fizzle out as a result because the Call of the Forge Lord is going to come out here. A TP from Voice all the way from bot to top, he goes. Gaben gonna flash the wall, hook as well, and say, nice try, buddy. You didn't get me this time.
Yeah, well, Mammoth decides to group 5 up for these grubs, but the main thing is both Kanga side laners are getting plates right now. They're getting gold into the members who are really important, but this is a bit of overextension from Mammoth. It was very hard to, you know, engage like that. I feel like they run out anyway with the even numbers. We do see the all-in on top lane. I don't think anyone will go down here, though.
Well, there's a double ult being proc right now. Reneko in that Dominus form saying, my burn is stronger than yours. Just sitting on top of that barbecue. Gets juked once, gets juked a second time, and then ultimately says one auto to the head and lights out for you. And this Renekton is starting to become a bit of a menace, and the Rumble lane bully is 0-3.
Yeah, Widom decides not to disengage there with like the double harpoon and walk away. Decides to go for the all-in, but I think Reneko just has a bit too much of an item gap right now. You know, being able to itemize for that early Hex Drinker because he doesn't really, you know, care about what the damage profile will look like in the mid game. He's all about winning lane right now. Refury doesn't have access to the ult just yet. I have to see if they don't want to go forward here. There is no Norless depth charge, but this is quite hard
range hook
to navigate.
Yeah, I mean this is a little trap from the Rengar. Like, that's my gank attempt, guys. I've tried to help, but there's so much frustration, as you've already mentioned as well, right? 2 levels down, and you're saying I need to find something. Yes, I managed to find a bit of a tragedy up in the top lane where we all fell down. But I need more, but Mammoth are just not offering those windows.
Yeah, definitely. I think they're doing a really good job like shutting down Refury's avenue into the game. It's very hard to find, you know, kills as an assassin. That's why we don't really see them in competitive ever. It's just way too hard to find gold when, you know, if a player navigates their lane correctly, they'll never be in a position to be ganked. And when they are, they can just call for a hover, they can call for a TP. There's just so many ways to play around, you know, these very high damage squishy champions.
I suppose their saving grace would be the fact that whilst Mammoth did commit everybody towards that second coming of the Void Grubs, they only managed to pick up 1, and Kanga were able to deny at least 2, so they will get those Void Grubs spawning on the towers, and that was Kanga's response right to that play, is 2 side lanes attacking to get as much plate gold as possible. And now that we've crested over the 14-minute mark, yes, they are still behind in gold, but nowhere near as bad as it could have been when you tab check and say, that Carthage is an issue, stop that right now. Perhaps now is a big break point for them to contest, say, the Herald, or rather the next Dragon, I should say, given that they've just hit 2 Kraken Slayers, and you're thinking this is a good break point for your 2 AD carries to really find a target and execute them.
Yeah, the main problem though that I'm looking at right now is that they have a lot of damage, but it's just hard to do it. Like, the only champion who really enables them is the Nord. As we do see the top dive coming in, we have to see Refury is able to clean up here.
Nice flash out of that center room. He's still locked in place, stun locked for what felt like an eternity, and you just can't do much more than that. Burns double summoners, falls down for his 4th of the game. The only trade back will be Gun Crab, and Refury just a little bit too late to the party.
Yeah, but once again, more gold going on to the right players. We see Gudo pick up another kill, and he's just, you know, he's sitting on so much gold right now. He's going to base, he's probably going to itemize towards that Leandries. I would like to see him go, you know, straight for a death cap. The comp that he is versing right now is really squishy, and I feel like just having, you know, just more AP will be a lot more effective than just, you know, itemizing the double burn.
So basically become the Ultra Chad, forget about the idea of any Zonias anytime soon, just do pure shred. You're dying either way, and from the afterlife you can still one-shot these members. So let's see exactly how fed he is by being right up at the top of the table. And to Kanga's credit, look, the likes of Vendrick and Refury aren't too far behind, so this does feel like a bit of a jungle-focused carry matchup, but one is certainly pulling far, far ahead.
What a like foreign thing to see. Like, when was the last time you saw a jungle on top of the the gold leaderboard, or like having almost the most CS in the game? It's such a very like season 6-esque thing. So it's really it's nice to see that like we're finally seeing these high tempo like AP junglers just absolutely taking over the game when they're allowed to, just constantly invading, taking camps, just being up in tempo all the time. I feel like that's one of the very underrated things in competitive is like tempo. It's like being on the map first, being, you know, getting another base, getting another item because you just were able to clear jungle faster is just so important. It's such an underrated thing.
And it's an interesting one, right? Because once again, we look at the gold and say, well, it's been shrunk once more by Kanga. You're thinking, who actually wins this one? But I feel like I'm still sticking to my point beforehand of like either side that gets the blue side draft should come out ahead. And I do feel like, Gudo is still in a position to say that I can genuinely 1v9 this and put the ball back into your court to say, well, you need to try and find a draw in that second game, or it is really dicey for you now. But still very early days, 15 minutes in, not in a position where I would have thought that we'd be in where you're saying, well, you haven't won the early game, you can't win the mid game. It still feels very up in the air.
Yeah, we are being very doom and gloom about Kanga right now, but they are not in a bad position at all. Like, they're both 80 carries are on track, they're farming really well. Gunkrab is caught out of position here, he is going to go down.
Yeah, you cannot afford to be caught out, especially in the river where there are so many bushes for the Rengar to profit from. Burns the flash, guarantees that squishy center will fall on down. And these are the avenues, these are the moments where the mid game can really prove, okay, tempo is one thing, but the ability to navigate, that much better.
Yeah, and this is like one of the, very staple problems is like, oh, your jungler's playing top side. We're still answering the mid wave. Gunkrab, a bit ahead of tempo, goes to the wood by himself and gets caught out. It's just all about, respecting where your team isn't. Rengar, you gotta really respect the champion because, he is invisible. He can be everywhere at once if you don't see him on the map. So it's all about, doing stuff together as a team, walking in after waves, walking in together as a team. So at least if Rengar does go in, you're gonna trade 1-for-1 at worst. And if Rengar is doing that, he's not really able to, really excel and do his job in these team fights.
Yeah, if he's burning it all in a little skirmish, then nobody's saying we're at a deficit when it comes to the full 5v5s. I think that's what Mammoth are looking to try and gear up for, because whilst they've been grouped up as a squad and are looking to try and assault and take down their second turret of the game, Kanga have been very keen to lock in the side lanes, right? Woodon knows that the laning phase was not in his favour. He's 1-4, but he's going to be sat in top lane as much as he can to try and force Reneko to go away from that 5-stack. And you mentioned as well that the Tristana should be very confident to do as much as he can whilst Voice is just doing doughies around the Dragon Pit. They're going to look for their third Dragon of the game, but I think that is Kanga's way back in, right? Draw members away, keep the side lanes hectic, and offer avenues for refuel to then pounce upon stragglers.
Yeah, and as we do see, like, Mammoth are putting very, very high priority to objectives. That's what they need to do. One saving grace right now for the Kanga comp is, like, the MR will start coming out of the Kanga members. We do have, like, a very high AP base team comp in like the Karthus, Ahri, and Ornn, so a lot of the damage profile is going to be avoided from like the Maw, if you want to go for a Banshees on the Rumble, like even another like you can go Banshees on the Kai'Sa. Like these are also very nice items that you can build. I think that the only downside of that though is you're going to be missing a lot of the damage. A lot of it will come out of the just stat checking because you're so tanky. So we'll have to see like whether they do want to go for these items early. We will see them come out later into the game, which is the more important thing. The later this goes, the more happy Kanga will be, because a lot of the damage from Karthus will be avoided from like life steal and like a lot of the magic resist that will come out of the Kanga comp.
It's a really good point. It is a really good point. So I suppose to take that one step further, would you almost say then that the soul point becomes a very crucial point, particularly for Mammoth, because they need to make sure that the stat check doesn't come into full effect? Or, I suppose to play devil's advocate, it's a case of, well, if level 16 is there by that time, it's just too much damage to try and even truly mitigate through.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't say the soul is like too much to worry about. If they do end up giving it, I don't feel like they're going to be in a too bad of a position. It's just all about closing the game out as early as possible. I think Mammoth are going to have to start forcing this Baron because their side lanes will start losing. Their damage profile will get one-dimensional. I don't think the center, who isn't in too much of a strong position right now, will be able to navigate how the team comp works, and like Renekton just isn't ahead of the clock. So I feel like the longer this game goes, the happier Kanga will be sitting.
Let's see then if they'll be very happy with the next outcome, because 20 minutes on the dot is where we find ourselves. Still a very fragile 1k lead, or just thereabouts, in favour of Mammoth. We've had the 3 dragons to their names, and what's going to is that polarity shift of one team's gone for the Drakes, the other's gone for those Void Grubs. Hence, it does make sense that they would play towards very different ideas in mind. But it hasn't been that bloody affair, and I think certainly when we had these battles for the scraps at the bottom of the table, this is certainly what it can be. It can either be a very calm, wait for your opposition to make a mistake kind of game, or it can just be guns blazing, 30 kills a minute, and just see who comes out ahead with the the respawn time as being 40 seconds and counting. So it feels like we're ramping our way up into a fairly chaotic Baron fight where one goes for the flip and the other says, well, if you do that, I look to try and split push and open up your base.
Yeah, I think it will be the case though going forward, as Reducer getting caught out here. Doesn't have the flash.
Might have the flash, has the heals, has the protection, but no salvation to be found in that bush. As he gets locked in place, fantastic knock up there from Voice on the flank, guaranteeing that 2 will be taken out in this exchange. And the Baron that was being looked at can now be started.
Yeah, I think Mammoth need to take Baron here. This is going to be like one of the very easy avenues to take the objective. have to see what Kanga wants to do. They still have access to the equalizer. They have flashes on both their carries, so I think it's still, you know, pretty easy to contest. It will be quite hard to navigate. It's very easy, you know, Predator to sit in these flank positions like this and look for the, you know, the major threats and to turn with flashes.
Predator waiting for that key target. Out comes the Requiem. Nice and early. Vendrick jumping in with that Killer Instinct. He finds what he needs. Predator's gone. Golden Hour on Woodon, who wants to protect that KDA from any more embarrassment in this occasion as Vendrick is dashing and diving, becoming that supercharged AD carry just out of range as voice of the knock-up from the collision with that camp. But no stragglers will survive, and at least the Baron has been stopped.
Yeah, stop the Baron NL1 for 2, so it's the best of a worst case for Kanga. They you know, able to, you know, slow the game down because the enemy team didn't get Baron. This is pretty much what you have to do as a Mammoth. You want to, you know, find these picks, still in flanks, as Predator's doing here. Look at these picks. Predator's got absolutely destroyed here from the amount of damage coming out. I feel like Vendrick had a window to really take over this fight. He's really fed, had access to the summoners, but decides, you know, play it slow, hold his summoners, and just, you know, maybe play for the next fight coming up.
Seemed to be a case of, you know, how much do you believe in yourself, or what were the comms at that given moment, right? Was it a case that your team is screaming at you, just stop the Baron, that's enough, that is all we need. Let's look to try and take our first true 5v5 with everything up and available, and with everybody now being respawned. That is certainly the reality. A minute then for Soul Point for Mammoth to try and pick up. Zonya's now being completed by Woodon, having burnt the stopwatch in that fight prior. And you're really starting to ask the question now, have they done enough to hit a breakpoint in itemization that they can really look to contest that into Mammoth? Because I see a 2.5 item Carthus, and I think he's 6-1. The Requiems alone are doing inhuman amounts of damage. Surely Kanga can try and find that ace in the hole.
Yeah, Mammoth have definitely done a very good job in the early game to absolutely blow this game out of proportion. Although we are seeing the items come through from Kanga. You know, we're seeing the 2 items completed from Woodon. We're seeing the 2 items completed from Vendrick. So, like, we have the major items completed on our carries right now. And Sovereign's just in the side lane doing so much damage, you know, with the Demolish, with the Void Grub. So he's really blowing the map open. He's going to, like, try to get as much gold as possible, complete an item, TP into this Dragon fight if they do want to contest this. I think it'll be very hard to contest with how much map control Mammoth has able to, you know, garner from the 3-lane playstyle coming out of Kanga. I think we'll have to see if they do want to collapse on the Sovereign here. He does have access to the jump and the ult, so I don't think, you know, Renekton will be able to get on them pretty comfortably. I feel like they are going to play for the contest here. We are seeing them walk into River. It's very, very hard to get into. The TP is coming out already, and you have to see if, you know, the CC does land.
Let's see if it's too little too late. Goes the Equalizer, nice and early. Piercing Shadow coming across. They're going to give it a little bit of mitigation to try and keep the top members of Voice already there to do the damage that they need. But Vendrick says it's time to use that flash, and to good success, I will use it. Finds one instantly. The Requiem comes down. Look at the healing from a Rengar as he just looks to walk out and meander through the mid lane. At the tail end, though, Predator says not enough of that. Hits him with the orb and gets him out of the picture. But it will simply be a 2 for 2. And this game is still all up in the air.
Yeah, 2 for 2, but the major thing is the Dragon went over to Kanga, so they bought themselves more time, like another 5 minutes on the clock. As we do go on the replay, we see the hook go wide, but the major thing is the ult goes no good, and he's forced to flash out. He's not standing in the middle of the team with the file, just doing an insane amount of damage, and the CC's already landed on him, so, you know, Vendrick gets access to the back line, Sovereign gets access to the back line. They're splitting up the fight, which allows Rengar to, you know, play for these flanks and, like, assassinate these people out of position, and I don't know why the champion can heal this much as an assassin. I think it's unfair, like, right, please fix this, but, you know, he did that. Still falls down, but Kanga are very happy with the outcome of that team fight.
Well, I think really the response to that, Tally, is they have fixed it by saying this champion's not viable in a pro setting. That's why assassins are just simply banned. They just do not flourish. They are very much that feast or famine style. But look, to his credit, he's managed to find a couple of items online to try and be that one-shot terror. There is the charm. There is a little bit of damage on towards Sovereign. It says, look, there is no world in which an Ahri can contest me this much into the game now. And I think, really, if you do leave the Tristana to the Lonesome, a rapid fire with the Void Grubs too, I mean, 20 seconds, the whole entire lane is annihilated.
Yeah, and to touch on, like, how the silence is going to work right now is that, you know, Sovereign has access to the Milk Treads and the Hex Drinker, so he doesn't really feel threat coming out of, like, you know, if Gudo wants to roam down and gank him, because, you know, Ahri Karthus, not a very good 2v2. They're not going to find kill threat onto Sovereign. He's going to be able to push in, constantly jump onto Praetor in the 1v1, and the trading is going to be very, very one-sided. So eventually Sovereign is going to muscle Praetor out of this lane. He's going to have control the entire time, deep wards, all whenever he wants to. If he wants to run into jungle, clear out vision. And combining that with, you know, Rengar walking into the jungle, killing anyone who wants to face check him, it's just a much easier time for Kanga to navigate how the mid game is going to work right now, which is just not a very good place for Mammoth to be based on how the early game went.
Well, that's exactly right, because I keep looking at that gold graph and go, at what point does Mammoth truly break open the lead and showcase that they are the stronger team in this game? But it really does feel like it's Gudo against the world, because
because he holds the lion's share of their overall economy. He is the focus right now, but if the Carthus goes down, he doesn't really care because they'll find one to start things off with, make it a 1-for-1. But out comes the Requiem from the dying edge, and the Killer Instinct looks good, but it's not enough to deny Death itself. There is the Zonias, but that's cute because you're now another sitting target for a flanking Renekton to rock up to the party and chomp on down.
Yeah, I have to see if Mammoth do want to go for the Baron here, even though Reef Fury is still alive. Very surprised that Sovereign decides to jump in there like that. Completely, you know, throws everything out the window, jumps in, wants to engage that fight straight away. But once again, they're still trading. So, like, any scenario where, like, it's just, you know, constant trading, like 3 for 4, 4 for 3, this will favor Kanga. As we do see this fight start. Mammoth are the ones who aggress here. They think, you know, Kanga's overextending, but because they do have this control of side lanes, they have the ability to collapse first. But, you know, I think it's just a misplay on Sovereign's part, being a bit too aggressive here, jumping into the middle of the team. But they still turn the team fight into a semi-even trade, and, like, you know, getting gold onto the right people is really important. Even though Mammoth are strong right now, I'm not sure if they've done enough to really, you know, secure this late game for them.
No, it does still very much a dicey affair, right? Yes, more members got in on the action, were able to acquire still a little bit of extra gold, but could have picked up another 2, nearly at the magical 10-kill number. And you are really wondering, well, you weren't able to pick up the Baron as a result of that one. You sieged, you got yourself an extra turret over Kanga. But is your map state favorable enough to feel as if you can actually do as you please? Because you're still going to be concerned about the side lanes, which is exactly what the Rumble and the Tristana are attending to.
Yeah, and also, I keep talking about scaling, but there are breakpoints for Mammoth, like, where they are going to be stronger, and one of them right now is that Carthus 16. When that Death Cat comes through, the damage his ult will do will just completely, you know, navigate any misplay or scaling that will happen in team fights. I feel like he's going to have way too much for the amount of magic resist that is coming out of Kanga right now. And I think that, you know, that's that one window for Mammoth to, like, be like, okay, I got Death Cap, I'm 16, let's force Baron, let's force an objective, it's time to fight.
Well, that's exactly right, right? I mean, in terms of it being a shorter cooldown, a bigger damage boost, and on top of the Death Cap too, the Equalizer looks kind of pitiful in comparison, but does force out the dominance here from the Renekton in retaliation for what looks like a 1v1, but we all know is certainly not the case because Reef Fury's rocked up, slice and dice and take him down. Predator picks it up, acting as a supportive friend. Renekton says, I'll get 1 for myself, make it 2 and 6 on that Rumble. And Gaben, how are you still living? 100 health and a dream. Flash forward, Gunkrab wastes no time to take him down 2, and straight to Baron we go.
Yeah, and this was Kanga opting into that fight, but they just don't have the damage to take down this Renekton. You know, Rumble isn't going to be able to do much to this Renekton in the 1v1. Reef Fury doesn't have access to the Thrill of the Hunt, so he's just not going to do too much. And they're going to pick up the free Baron, and this pretty much, like, secures them enough gold to, you know, find this Death Cap, find these item spikes that will really, like, you know, secure them in the like that mid-late game area. So Renekton will probably fall down here. No ult.
Yeah, he is going to fall on down, and I was about to credit and say that Renekton does feel like a bit of a firefighter, trying to do all, pretty much everything on the map at once. Yeah, I'll go set up the gank. Yes, I'll get you in a position to take the Baron. Yes, I'll defend bot lane. And Tristana does skirt away. Yet another 5 precious minutes afforded here for the Kanga side as Vendrick solos at the Drake. And they say, you can have your Baron, but you can't have both.
Yeah, and to touch on the scaling again, we keep talking about, like, oh, when Kanga gets these items, they're going to, like, be in a much better position. But, you know, we're just not really seeing the items come out. As you do go into the replay, like, this is Widon aggressing onto, like, the Maw, the Malmortius, the, you know, Renekton has access to the Dominus. Like, he has so much, you know, health coming out here. Reef Fury doesn't have access to the ult, so he's just walking up, and he just blows up. You know, he doesn't really have the damage to take down Renekton, who's so strong right now. The Carthus ult comes out. The damage is quite insane, you know, health HPing the entire team out of Kanga, and, you know, it's just easy picking, easy Baron. Consultation prize though for Kanga, like, they find the kill in bot lane, they find the dragon, so they're not too upset. And I think that's the story in a lot of these games, is like there always is a trade available for the, you know, the team who falls behind, and it's good to see Kanga trying their best to stabilize.
That's exactly true. The fact that they can find a trade of at least any merit is certainly a positive one. As Gaben just across the wall saying, no, this is not a fake Hex Flash. I'm definitely looking to try and find a bit of a party here in the mid lane. Because Mammoth are looking to try and say, well, with this Baron lead, let's make it a power play. Let's get a bit of a gold lead to boot. Another 1v1 takes place. Oh no, Sovereign! You've rocket jumped to nowhere, literally bounced on his head and said, you know what, I've got a cheat code. I've got a second laner! But then the ult comes out, the Requiem axes the jungler from afar. And Reef Fury just burning Flash for good measure.
Yeah, we're just seeing the jump button fail a bit today from Sovereign, which is alright, but, you know, he fails to jump over the wall, trades the 1-for-1. I assume he wanted to, you know, bait a bit more for, you know, Reef Fury to be able to come clean up, because there isn't, you know, that insane amount of armor coming out of the Renekton, so he's still going to fall down to the Rengar damage. But we do see Predator just in the side lane, doesn't have access to the TP, doesn't care. He's just pushing, creating as much pressure on the map, telling the rest of his team, you know, make sure you don't get engaged on because I'm not letting go of anyone right now. I'm getting all this farm, I'm getting the inner turrets, I'm getting the objectives that matter, you know. They want to break open the map as much as possible. They want to make this a much easier place for them to navigate. I'm not really sure Kanga want to walk into this bush.
I'm glad we had the toggling of the different POVs there, because you realize if you do walk into that, I don't think there's any amount of self-healing that a Rengar can afford to bail you out of that very poor situation. Even more so now, 4 completed items, Def Cap and Ornament Upgrade pretty much across the board here. And you say, yeah, they're up by 3k from the graph, but oh so much more now. I don't think they really care about having not picked up that Dragon Soul at all, because they know they've hit that break point of just too much power to bear.
Yeah, and to also like touch on, as I said in draft, like this Ornn will be quite unkillable if this Rumble falls behind. And like as we saw, like they put so much resources into making sure Wudon wasn't able to snowball based on his 1v1. Renekton did really good in the 1v1 to find solo kills with the Karthus ult. So it's you know, good to see there's so much armor coming out of this Ornn. Have to see if like Vendrick with the like the on-hit build, the AP build, a lot more damage in the Void Seeker and the passive to, you know, make sure he's really able to blow up this Ornn if you overextend, you know, gets CC'd up by this Nautilus.
Let's see then if it is going to come down to that war of attrition where it's like that's a cute little inventory you've got. Would be a shame if I was to CC stun lock you for all day long. We'll see if that becomes a reality or not, because side lane's still the massive focus here for Kanga. That has to be their ticket back into this game, to try and take out somebody like Mammoth have done all game long, allowing them to build these massive, massive gold leads. But they know they're strong. They want to group up. They want to force a fight. It becomes their interesting dance, right, as to how do Kanga navigate the side lanes whilst not falling down, whilst also at the same time, I suppose, preventing Mammoth from just walking straight through mid and knocking on your front door.
Yeah, and to also touch on Senna, I think, you know, Senna's hit the 3-item spike. We are seeing like the 3 items come out. We just see the engage coming out of both teams.
Even the focus right now, gets knocked up once, gets hit by a second ultimate twice, and falls down. First blood in this affair. Predator TP's in, Flash, Charm, net him down, and find that reset on the Spirit Rush. We're hunting for a second, we're praying for that cooldown on Charm to come back ever so quickly, but it's already been done, Tally. Only 2 members survived. The core of Kanga prevail, but they've now got to defend their base up against 5.
Yeah, and I think this is quite a tall task to do to be able to defend this. It's one of the biggest problems with Kanga's comp is they can't win front to back. They need to be able to come from multiple angles, you know, drop the equalizer, Rengar flank. If they get engaged on front to back, it's never going to be in a pretty position. And I do believe this will be game over for Kanga here. It's way too hard to defend for the rest of the members that were left alive.
It is brutal. It's an ace, our first one of this series. And you just saw the skittles coming out from Gura there. He is just tapping you down, and you're juking and jiving. But honestly, you're being made to look like a fool as Mammoth close it out. And they take game number 1. They find their first victory in Split 2.
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't get to see how much damage Guru could really do with the Recon towards the end of the game, but they were pretty comfy the entire game. They had a clear win condition in the Karthus, you know, in the stable lanes, and they were able to capitalize on the fact that, you know, Kanga were unable to snowball with their comp that needs to get ahead. So it's just a very nice showing from a team that had these unstable showings last week, and it's good to see a bit more constructive gameplay from them.
Well, certainly is. You saw a lot more of a cohesive unit coming out of the Mammoth squad there. They had a comp built to do one thing, and they executed it pretty well. As for Kanga, they took a few gambles in that draft, unable to find the victory thereafter, but after the break, they will be flipping to the blue side, and we'll see if they can tie it up to make a draw.